This is actually pulled out from a section in my class. It's called Enterprise Attack Initial Access, and we give it through the Antisyphon platform. So if you want to go through like how to get into an organization and what to do when you get these credentials and things like that, just take my class. So what I want to talk about first is like tokens, like how do we get tokens? What are they and things like that? That's what my slides were, so we're just going to ad hoc that. So basically, when you sign into an Azure or Microsoft 365 service, you get what's called an access token, access_token, and that is a JWT, and that looks like EYJ something, a long string. That is your 1 hour time limit by default access token to get into these Microsoft services, scoped to whatever resource you authenticated to. So if I authenticate to Microsoft Teams, I get a Teams scope, right, for my user, and depending upon what permissions I have, I get those scopes. So with token tactics, we can say, all right, we're going to phish some user. Who's familiar with the device code flow? The device code. So Microsoft.com/device login will bring up this little page. Oh, we've probably seen this before, right? Yeah. So if you sign in with like AZCLI or some other command line tool, it'll probably make you do this kind of registration. So what you do here, you think of this like Netflix, right? You put Netflix on your TV, you go to sign in, and I've got a remote control, and all right, how am I going to type my 20-character password into the TV on my remote control? Well, an easier way, it pops up and says, would you like to sign in from another device? So it's like your computer over here. So on your TV, it gives you a code. You go over to your computer, type it in, it signs you into the TV. Wait a minute. How did this sign into that? How does that relate? So with Microsoft Device Code Flow, the point that generates that code is the IP address of that JWT package. So if I generate on my laptop a code to give to a user, and that user signs in, that is my conditional access, which is none, my IP address. So it's not the user's, because I generated the code here. So that can be a problem. But if you tell the user to go to your site, Microsoft.com, device login, and you give them the code, they only have 15 minutes to enter that code before it times out. Well, as an offensive practitioner, that kind of sucks. And that's not a long window. What if I send my phishing email at like 11 o'clock, but they went on an early lunch, right? They're out for a while, and they come back, they see that, oh, I got an email from Microsoft, because I got to enter, because yes, we're going to be Microsoft. I'll show you that in a minute. They've got this code, they enter it in, they sign in, and then you get the package for their access tokens and all that. So what we can do then is redirect them to another website that generates the token up there. So we send the phish, they get a link to this other website. So instead of 15 minutes from the time your phish leaves or you generate that token, they get an email, they come back to their desk after lunch, it's been an hour, they click on that, it takes them to this other website. But basically, this is kind of the flow that I have made for dynamic device code phishing. So what we do is we host a VM out here, like an Azure VM, could be any VPS or whatever. But I use Azure all the time because I like to use Microsoft to the nth degree. So sorry if anybody works here for Microsoft. But that first VM there, if we generate the token there, then that is where the IP address is. That's going to get the conditional access policy. So it's not going to be anything good or whatever. So what we do is we make another Azure function, Azure app, and that Azure app redirects to another service. Has anybody heard of CORS anywhere? It's like a GitHub, just a word CORS. So if you try to access another site, there's CORS blocking, stuff like that. This gets around that. So what we do is we tell that web app to redirect to the Microsoft login. So the web app or the Azure app is actually the one generating the token up there. And that gives you that additional time delay so the user can be out as long as they want until the token doesn't generate until they visit that website. Problem with that is if you get a successful sign-in, this flux, does anybody know what flux is? No? Okay, good. I love explaining blockchain. Oh, everybody leaves. All right, so this is the inside of the HTML file that gets deployed for the application for dynamic device code phishing. So up here we see basically Java Git for coresanywhere.app.runonflux.io. And then there's a long URL to log into Microsoft Online. It goes to client ID and all that stuff. So that's getting the graph token for you, passing through Cores Anywhere. So then once we get the capture code, once the user goes and enters the code, it sends us back a capture code to our VM. And we capture that, and then they sign in. And then on our VM, we actually get the token spit out into a token log file. So you can phish 100, 200 users, have that website out there. They're all entering their creds. They're all signing in. If they already have a browser signed in to that session, they don't have to enter their creds. They don't have to enter their MFA. They just sign right in. You get the complete package. You can access everything. Now the bad part about that is, I'll show you just a second. Let's just demo it. Come on, demos are good, right? Except during my class in here, shit kept breaking and Azure wasn't working, so it was fun. But basically, we have this website out there. So if we can see that, I actually took this from a device code email that came from Microsoft and just weaponized it, put it out there on this website so it looks somewhat legit, right, from Microsoft device code. And so what they do is you send this website up there, you send them to the website, and it generates their code by pulling from that this run on Flux. Run on Flux is a blockchain app, kind of like Ethereum. So applications can run on nodes distributed worldwide. Well, when we're signing in and we're proxied through a blockchain node that could be freaking anywhere, what does that mean to the sign-in logs and things like that, right? Well, we're going to see that. So we're hitting the old graph.windows.net API. Anybody heard of Graph 2.0? What does it call? Preview, Graph, View, Explorer? I don't know what Microsoft calls that these days, but basically you're going to see all, like anything graph, it's going to log it all. And you'll see, like, if you run Road Recon or anything like that, Blood or Azure Hound, it's just going to spit out all kinds of logs, and they're going to look, somebody's enumerating our shit. So what do? We go back to the old API because they're not monitoring that anymore right now at all. So you can still get the tokens, and then you can refresh those in V1 API and still do the same things. All right, so if we refresh this device code page, let me get a couple things set up here. All right, so this is my deployment of the website. It's so easy. You just set AZ web app up, the location in Azure you want to deploy to, the resource group that you want to make, and the name of the VM. Let's see here. So that name is a public DNS name. So you get, for me, it's dynamic device codes demo.azurewebsites.net. Somewhat trusted domain, right? It's a Microsoft site. Probably going to get through some filter things. Reputation, whatnot. So I deployed the site up there, and that gave me this. So what is this doing in the back end, right? I have, I killed my session for that. Hang on. So anyways, what the capture server does is uses Python code. And actually, I'll show you the blog here real quick while that's going. So in the dynamic device code phish blog, it tells you how to set up the whole thing, all the commands to run. There's a little demo in there. You can deploy the Azure App Services. And in the capture token phish, there's actually a Python script that will deploy everything for you, or a PowerShell script. SSH in there, and then you go to your VM that's in Azure, and there's a Python script up there that gets auto-deployed with your deployment to the VM. I have port 8443 here, but you wouldn't have that. Normally, you'd have 443 because it's coming back from Microsoft and all that stuff. So we listen on 000, and the token comes back on the VM, and it looks like this, right? So in the back end, it's waiting for that token, just like Token Tactics does if you're running it on your computer. It spits out the token, and then you can use that elsewhere. Oh, I think we're accessing it. Thank you, Microsoft, for letting me back in. Oh, cool. I'm on my VM. All right. Am I? No, I'm like my user. What? There we go. All right, that's weird. All right, so when you deploy it, you're gonna have, let me make this bigger here. You're gonna have a folder, I don't think I can, called token tactics. So we're gonna CD into token tactics. Now again, this is your VM you deployed that's gonna receive the capture code and then spit out all your tokens for you. So here we got a capture token phish folder. And under there, we see it's already deployed, and I've got a visit log from people browsing to that website. There's a token log because I already did this before, but we're going to do it again. And the capture token phish.py, let's look at that. So what this is doing is it's spitting out the log file for you. It's actually running PowerShell in the VM up there. Why? Because token tactics is written in PowerShell. I'm not going to rewrite it in Python. So anybody who wants to rewrite in Python, go for it. But so we run PowerShell up there to run token tactics, which then waits for the code to come in. Easy peasy, but you do have to have a certificate. So it does a Let's Encrypt certificate for you on the fly, and you don't have to worry about it. See if my screen's still up. Yep. Alrighty, so what we're going to do here is run the Python 3 capture token phish pi, listen on all interfaces, port 443, so we have to sudo. So that's waiting for any tokens and inbound connections. If I go back over here to my page, I will refresh. And over here. So we see it's running. So now we have a token here. So token tactics on the back end, it appended all the output to NoHub. So we don't have a bunch of garbage coming in like web traffic and all that. So you do get the traffic in a log file, though. You can see what IPs we're hitting here. So in the same browser, I'm signed in to somebody. I'm going to go Microsoft.com device login. I'm going to put that code in there that I received via my phish because I'm a user on some company. Here we go. That's what I was trying to get to. So we're running on Flux, which is distributed nodes, blockchain all over the country and world and everywhere. So our sign-in is coming from Microsoft Office. That's because Token Tactics client ID that we sent to that auth portal was using the Office client ID. So whatever you put in the client ID, that's what the app is going to show you. If you phish somebody Token Tactics, you want a Teams app, put the Teams client ID, and they'll sign into Teams here instead. It'll say Microsoft Teams. Problem, it says France, right? And that will be, I mean, you get like Syria, you get anywhere, because wherever that nodes are running and they're running that application, it could come out of. Not good if you're on an offensive engagement. So how do we get around that? Where else can we deploy apps in the States, maybe? Something like Heroku, right? You can deploy Heroku apps. Cool thing about Heroku apps, guess what? All you can do is basically clone over cores anywhere, deploy your app, and just point this at your app, and it forwards all the core stuff to Microsoft for you. Don't have to worry about anything. You get all your packages. So what we're going to do is we're going to sign in as Roy. I'm actually using Bose, if you saw Graph Runner earlier. We're going to use his tenant because he's got everything set up, and I'm super lazy. I'm not going to do it myself. All right, so Office client ID, and I'll tell you about client IDs here shortly. All right, so the browser says we signed in. And we see we have a 0 there, that something happened. I don't have much verbose here because it's just running in the background in a screen. So I'm going to get out of my screen, clear that. Let me look at start.log. All right, I've got a visit log and a token log. Let's cat the visit log. So you can watch this on the fly if you're offensive, right? Keep an eye on this stuff. Maybe an alert if something comes in, you can tell it to message you or whatever. Visit log's pretty simple. You get where it came from and things like that. Oh crap. Okay. What we're really looking for is the token log, because that contains all of our access tokens and refresh tokens for the user. So Now that we have that from our server up there, we can go and we can use token tactics wherever. Now, the cool thing about token tactics, you can run it in Azure Cloud Shell. You can run it in your PowerShell. You can run it in a Linux VM running PowerShell 7 core or whatever. You can run pretty much anywhere. There's no DLL dependencies or anything. So I'm going to go back down here. So scenario, I phished somebody. I got their token. Oops. So phish somebody, you get their token. What do you do with it? What does it matter? So I've got a refresh token in here already, but I want to show you also how to use get Azure token from Token Tactics to do this like on your own manually. If you want to send the code over email or Microsoft Teams is a great way to do that. You can do that. So I'll have a token I captured from the website, but I'm going to go ahead and show you this way. So I'm going to use client Substrate. Has anybody ever heard of Substrate, Microsoft Substrate? Substrate.office.com/ECP will get you to the Exchange control panel. Substrate.office.com/EWS will get you to Exchange Web Services. See where I'm going with that? It's the substrate of all the underlying Office stuff. So you can brute force that, and maybe you'll find some more stuff. All right, so from here, let me clear my variables and stuff. So token tactics will save the original request to the response variable. Right now, I don't have anything there. I made it null. I'm going to clear tokens. It's from Graph Runner. So we're going to say with token tactics, you can supply like the device and the browser. Why might that stuff be important for an Office or Azure? What are they using to protect from people authenticating? Conditional access, right? Oh, hey, yeah, we only use Windows devices, but our C-suite uses Android phones. So just let the Android phones connect, right? So then you can come in here and change your device to Android phone or iPhone or whatever, and then depending on the policy, maybe get around it. All right, so we're generating the token here. It expires in 15 minutes. And we found a conditional access maybe bypass. I don't know, but every client I've used it on now that blocked me from getting the graph, I just put this client ID in and it lets me in, then I refresh to what I want and then access the stuff. Yeah. Show you that. All right, so I'm signing in. Sign is right now. This time United States because I generated the code here. Office, yes. And there we go. Now the real token tactics will spit out all your tokens right here. I didn't want to spit all this stuff on screen. So it is saved. It is in the response variable. Pipe that to get member. And there's your scope. There's your ID tokens. All that stuff there in that variable. So if we do response dot access token, we get our access token. Expiration dates, ID token, not before. So there's your refresh token. That one gives you access for 90 days. Very important. The scope. So this is the scope our user has against that resource. A lot of stuff going on here, but maybe there's other resources we have access to. Now, if you're getting blocked by conditional access, it might be possible to use a different client ID. And to do that with Azure token tactics, we're going to use get Azure token. We're going to specify a custom client. Now with, yeah. With token tactics, I put in the ability to make it tab completable because I hate things that aren't. So if we do like get Azure token, you can hit the dash and then it'll, you can go through the ones. But if you actually do client and type, just hit tab and it'll take you to all the different clients that are in token tactics. This is not an exhaustive list at all. Graph is the original graph. If we go to, where is that? That's graph.windows.net. So if you want to get past that preview, logging, and all that crap, use this one. So we're going to do custom. I'm just copying this whole string. So custom, the client ID for this is actually Microsoft Edge. Now, we've also found that Azure PowerShell's client ID gets around some of the conditional access policies. I don't know why. Could be just the client setup. Could be that we're finding something different. I really don't know. So I'm going to make any claim to fame here. What I'm going to do, though, is clear the variable I had before. If you're in token tactics, you can do invoke clear check access. No, clear token, and again, tab completable. So whichever one you want to clear from your token cache, I'm just going to say all. Now our variables are clear. That's all it's doing is clearing a variable in your session. All right, so now we're going to access graph.microsoft.com with this Edge client ID and just see what that looks like. I don't have any conditional access policies here to really test that. So I just want to show you what it looks like differently. So there we go, trying to sign into Edge. So maybe there's a conditional access policy that says, oh yeah, we need to use Edge in our environment, not Firefox or whatever. Maybe that's why we're getting through. So you sign in, you still get the same token package, but then you can refresh to other token scopes and stuff. Do I only have 30 minutes or do I have an hour? Anybody? I have no idea. Oh, shit. Okay. Well, let's just blow through the rest of this and show you some cool stuff. All right. So I'll make this public on my Notion. It's actually on futuresec.io. I'll show you that here in a minute. But futuresec.io, which gets you to this, and I'll have these step by step so you can go practice it, play with it, whatever. So once we have a token, we can actually do parse JWT token if you want to read what scopes and stuff you have there. And then let's see. So for Graph Runner, we saw Graph Runner on stage. There's the commands in there. The main thing I wanted to get across today with token tactics, that is interrupt. It works with other tools. All right. So what we're going to do here is import the tokens that we just got into Graph Runner. I'm going to run through one real quick thing here. I don't want to be too late here, but we can then import those tokens into like Road Recon. We can perform other things like send email, send Teams messages. So if we do refresh to MS Teams, now we become MS Teams. Take that token and put it into Graph Runner. Paste it up here. And now you have a Teams token. You can send Teams messages to and from users in the organization. And then lastly, I'll show you this real quick. So when you have those tokens, you can import them into Graph Runner. You can put them into Road Recon. AAD internals, the command to do that is here as well. So it's flexible, and that's what I like about it. You can refresh to different access tokens and things like that. So I want to take any questions. So if you saw the Graph Runner thing, let's do this. Hey, who's next? Where you at? Are you mad? Oh, you're mad. No, you're up. Okay, cool. Hang on, Corey. I'm coming. I gotta show this real quick. So with Edge and the things that I was looking at before with Bo, we found that with Firefox, we would get hit by conditional access blocking, right? So I'm going to go to one of these files on a SharePoint, and there's AWS credentials. Well, I can't open that. It says it's blocked. But if you drop down here, we get this immersive file reader we talked about on stage over there, right? So it's going to just read the file for us. But you can use Graph Runner now with the token that you had to read that, not only text files, but like Python files and other files, because that API is extension agnostic, right? No matter what file you point it to on SharePoint, it's going to read it or pull it down. If it's some kind of binary, you're not going to get good data back. But got to work on some way to try to download files with Immersive Reader better, but you can read clear text stuff that you can't read by browsing in the browser. So pretty cool. I'm done. I'm sorry it was a little jumbled, but I hope you get the gist of it. And go see Token Tactics on my GitHub. If you go to mygithub.com, it actually takes you to my GitHub. go to mygithub.com, right? Cheesy, I know. Any questions real quick? No? Yeah. All right, applause. You can bring it on. Thank you.